You're watching A Million Veteran Millionaires. Change your mindset, change your future. All right, welcome. My name is Andy Valdez, and one of the hosts of A Million Veteran Millionaires. You're watching. This is probably our 12th episode, and we are so fortunate to have our next guest on. And of course, this platform is primarily for folks that are thinking about starting a business, growing a business, scaling a business, and you're welcome to use all the free resources that we have here. Again, at A Million Veteran Millionaires. My co-host is Kathy Bowersox. She is part of Network in Action and also Veterans Business Force. So Kathy, welcome to another edition of A Million Veteran Millionaires.
I'm excited to be here today, Andy. I think we have a really great show, and I'm always about bringing tools and resources and information that help business owners in general be successful. But as you know, I really have a heart for helping veterans. It's my small way of thanking y'all for your service. So glad to be here hosting with you today.
All right. Well, as a recap, about 2.5 years ago, you reached out, and I was doing a lot of work with the American Legion, Marine Corps League, the Veterans Foreign War, et cetera, and really trying to help the vets come together in different ways. Some were into fitness, some were into lifestyle, some were into career. And of course, I always had a passion for entrepreneurship. And I think you and I started in radio about 15 years ago. Yes, and so you reached out and said, hey, let's start a veteran business force group here in Houston. And then from that was the founder of the Houston Veterans Chamber, which is going George R. Brown, large venue down here in Houston, has had some support from the Harris County veteran community, the state, as well as the mayor's office. They do have a military affairs office. And so that was a success this weekend. But I always love your support for vets, your passion to help vets. And I'm really excited about this guest. This is a subject we've been wanting to talk about, acquisitional wealth. A lot of times companies, they start and they may stagnate at a certain level, but, the goal is to get to an exit strategy. We had Oz Geist, 13 hours of Benghazi Marine vet that came and talked about that and how apropos. But today we have Josh, the Chairman Tolley. He is an author, he's a speaker, serial entrepreneur, family man, and he has a YouTube channel, The Logic Show, and also Acquisitional Wealth podcast. So Josh, thank you so much for being a part of this. My research of you was just a breath of fresh air, and excited to learn more about what you do and how you help people, the passion and the why of it all. So welcome to this Million Veteran Millionaires platform.
Oh, Andy and Kathy, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So, you have an interesting story going back, I guess, 27 years when you bought your first company in 1995. Is that correct?
No, I started my first legal company in 1995. I became an entrepreneur at 12. Not necessarily legal at that age, but 3 days after high school, I started my first legal company. And since then, I've been growing, buying, selling, flipping, merging businesses. So for 27 years now, 28, whatever it is, this has been my passion, and I've been helping people do it all over the world. And it's really one of those things where a lot of people, even if they're in business, they don't realize the opportunities in front of them. You have a lot of people who become small business owners, and that is completely different from an entrepreneur. So my passion is turning small business owners into entrepreneurs.
Well, that's what we're all about. And we're open and green and willing to learn. And, I think part of what you talk about, you said there's not really what they call insta experts on this subject. And you're here to clear the air when it comes to that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hate all of the coaching programs that pop up and join this mentorship program and all that sort of crap. It's creating way more damage than it is helping. You have a lot of these mentorship coaching programs that don't know what they're doing. They have no experience actually doing it. And then worse yet, you can now go out and, white label a book and have somebody else write it for you and have the coursework developed for you. They'll just put your name on it. And people who don't know any better are buying into this stuff. And it's fine if you're just talking about, how to sell on Etsy or something. But if you're really trying to grow a business, and certainly if you're trying to buy and sell one, the last thing you want to do is to say, well, this person's popular on Instagram. I'm going to sign up for this. That's just stupid. So we kind of try to counter all of that. Like I said, I've been actually doing this forever. It's not just something we decided to create a click funnel for and try to make some money.
Right. And watching your why video, I mean, you definitely have a passion to help folks. And Kathy, I think, took your Business of Life course. And Kathy, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually introduced to Josh through a friend of mine who's one of my referral partners, and attended part of one of his acquisitional wealth presentations and was absolutely hooked from the start. And so when I saw he was hosting his Business of Life presentation here in Houston a couple of months ago, was that in July, Josh?
Yep.
And over the weekend, it was something that I really wanted to do. And one of the things I really like about you, Josh, and the way that you present is you look at people's whole life, not just their business. Right. And I loved the concept that you taught in the Business of Life program about building a life that you want and finding the right business that fits into that life versus vice versa, which most people do is they usually start versus buying a business, and they do all the hard work to make it be something. And then that business consumes their life and they don't have time for the most important things, their family, their friends, their faith, all the things that really matter in our lives.
Yeah.
And so I love that you come from that point. And so I really just felt, at that weekend, which is where I invited you to join us for this, that we wanted to share your message and help get the word out about what you're doing, because it can make business owners or people in general, even if they don't already own a business, it can help make everybody's lives easier. And with, you do the business acquisitions with Kingsbridge, you're a brokerage company, you help with the financing with Shift. And then you also have Purple Monkey Garage, which helps with the business advising. So you don't just help people get a business and then go, all right, hasta la vista. You help them be successful. And so I love that you work with them across the life cycle of researching, finding the right business, purchasing it, helping it be successful, creating an exit strategy, and everything in between. So why don't you go ahead and just share some of your advice and guidance and wisdom with us around that?
Yeah, I found really early on, the easiest way to build a life is the same way you do a maze when you're a kid. The easiest way to do a maze when you're a kid was not from start to finish, it was finish to start. And unfortunately, we don't take that same approach when it comes to business. What happens is people will usually start a business. One, it's usually faster and cheaper to buy one, but they start one because they think that's the cheapest, fastest way to do it. And then they do something that they know, like, or love, something they already have an experience in. So let's say somebody's MOS in the military was an auto mechanic, and we're all going to take bets on what sort of business this guy gets into. What's he going to get into? Auto mechanic. Well, that's kind of dumb. And the reason it's kind of dumb is, first, it makes sure that you're the one constantly working. So now you're going to work more, you're going to work harder, you still have to run the business, and your odds of success drop through the floor. And then even if you're successful, you're wrenching 40 to 50 hours a week, and then you're trying to run the backside of the business another 30 to 40 hours a week, and you average all that out, and you're making less than minimum wage as a business owner. When instead, for the price of a good set of Mac tools, you could have bought a successful chiropractic business, been making $400,000 a year, and calling in every 6 months from Tahiti. And people just don't think about that. Instead, they're like, I'm going to start a business. Now I need to grow it. Stop it. Stop it. The odds of a business even being successful is 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10 are going to make it. Well, if we knew there was an 80% chance of it raining tomorrow, would we plan on going golfing? No. And I'm not trying to say don't be an entrepreneur. I am. I've written 3 books on the subject. But what we do is we go to the least likely spot that you're going to become successful, And that's starting from scratch. Now, if you do succeed 5 years, which is only 2 out of 10 businesses, the odds of those 2 making $1 million is 1 in 10, which means you have a 0.1% chance of becoming a millionaire by starting and growing a business. Well, why would we do that then? Like, you have a 1 in 1, come on. That's not even a 1% chance. So instead, we say, okay, look, first, never get involved in businesses you know, like, or love. Instead, get involved in businesses that produce the revenue that will give you the life that you actually want. That's that build the maze backwards. And it can be different for everybody. I never tell anybody that they have to have a jet and a Ferrari. Everybody's life is different. So your goals are going to be different. But if your business cannot produce the life that you want, don't start it. How many hundreds of thousands of business owners are doing what you're doing? And then how many of them actually have the life that you want? It's kind of like frozen yogurt stores, right? In 20 years, I've never met a frozen yogurt store owner that has the life of anybody that would consider themselves wealthy. And I've met franchise owners that own 5, 6 locations. Nope, not even close. Yet, with way less money, they could have been way wealthier, but they picked the wrong vehicle that like, you cannot serve enough frozen yogurt in a day to make that dream a reality. Well, if that's the case, then don't do that business. And what might be a good business for Kathy doesn't mean it's a good business for Andy, and vice versa. You really have to start with the end goal in mind and then come up with a plan. It's just like charting in, seamanship or navigation in flight. You have to know where this is going. Otherwise, don't start. But to Kathy's point, so many people are like, oh, I want to open a flower store. Oh, let's try to sell some flowers. Well, now I need a website and a phone number. Well, then hopefully we just sell some more. Well, maybe if we did some social media. Why? Why would you do that? There's literally 110 million people doing that. You're one of 110 million.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And, I read an article just yesterday, actually, about some of the top businesses that are good to purchase that have like a built-in profit margin. And accounting businesses, financial services, HVAC is actually one of them, AC companies, online businesses. So there are certain businesses that, even if you don't know a whole lot about it, you've just got to understand how to run the business and have the right team in place. And those are good businesses to buy, whether you like them or love them or not. So tell us a little bit about how you work with people to help them figure out what's the right business for them.
That's a really good question. So we start with that end goal. We say, okay, where do you want to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever. And we say, okay, well, then you're going to need X amount of income. If you want X amount of income, well, then we need a business that can produce X. Even if it's not doing it yet, it has to be capable of doing it. Okay, so once we know that we need a business that produces X, now we can come up with a list of 50 different businesses and industries and start saying, okay, out of these 50 different businesses or industries, what are some that would apply to you? Like, for example, HVAC. HVAC can be good. In the state of Texas, you need a license. In the state of Louisiana, you don't. So if you're going to buy one, buying one in Louisiana is easier and faster than it would be, say, here in Texas. So, go through those sort of things and start to say, okay, well, based on this narrowing down, this is what we should be pursuing. And then you go and pursue it.
Yeah, that's a really great way to figure that out. And so I know you've got a new book coming out called Acquisitional Wealth. And I know when I attended both the portion of your Acquisitional Wealth presentation that I was able to join, and then the Business of Life event, that you went into more depth and detail about how either as an existing business owner, you can grow significantly and get your business to where you want it to be through acquisition, or as somebody who's an employee. And I think you told a story about somebody, a boss that wanted his employees to go and, be successful and leave the company at some point in time and do that sort of thing. And, you can still be an employee today somewhere and go out and purchase a business and then have that dream come true of entrepreneurship and then growing through acquisition. So tell us a little bit about that and how that all works.
Yeah. So there's two sides of that. There's starting by acquisition and then growing by acquisition. If you're already in business, the fastest, most affordable way to grow is to buy whatever your growth is. Just buy it. So let's say you had a coaching business, or let's just go with that. You have a coaching business and you're trying to say, well, how do we get up to 1,000 members or whatever your model is? And you can go chug along, or you can go find a coach that already has 1,000 members, buy her business. And now those 1,000 members are now your members. And now you can institute your cool, better program. You could, tweak theirs, whatever you wanted to do, but you can buy it. And the question might come up, well, how do I buy it? How do I afford to buy it? Well, wait a second. You're asking the question backwards. What do they want for it? See, here's the part that people misunderstand. Every business is for sale. Every business. The reason you're in business is to make money. So even if I have no intention of selling one of mine, and right now I have 15 of them, if I have no intention of selling one of mine, but Andy came in and said, Josh, I would like to make an offer on your rum company. Do you know what at least I'm going to allow Andy to do next? Make an offer. Even if it's a no, I'm at least going to be like, well, what do you have in mind, man? So because of that, know that anything you want to buy is available. Now you just have to come to terms. That's it. It's not the price that really matters. It's the terms around that price. And in a lot of cases, you can buy a business with 10% down, 5% down, in some cases, 0% down if it's an expansion of what you're already doing. You can use your 401k as the down payment without any early withdrawal fees. You can, there's a ton of ways you can just buy the growth you want. And this is true even with businesses that, might not realize growth is in an area available to them. So for example, my taxes are insane. It's like 360 pages, right? And I moved to Texas. I got a new accountant, and the accountant said, well, if we're going to do your taxes, it was insane. It was like $248,000 a year or something. And he's like, and we need at least 15 grand a month in, monthly billings or whatever. And I said, wait a second, wait. You want me to pay you almost 250 grand. And in return, all I get back is my 380 page book. That's it. I can take that same 280 grand, buy a $3 million accounting firm, make $1 million a year in my pocket, and then just tell Sally, the accountant, oh, by the way, you're doing my taxes too. Well, which one makes more sense? So we did. And now we have Kingsbridge Money Works for all your bookkeeping and tax preparation needs, because I live this. I don't just say, oh, well, maybe. No. Why would I do that when I can just go buy it? And that's typically the case with any bill a business has over $5 grand a month. You could typically just go buy the company that's charging you. Just buy them. And now you're making all of that money. Which leads to another set of questions. Well, wait a second, Josh. If a business is making money, why would they sell it? That's a silly, silly question. You never sell a business that's losing money. Well, I shouldn't say never. But, why would you not sell the business that's making money? But let's break it down even further. The number one reason people sell businesses? Age. The average age of an entrepreneur in the United States is 59 and a half years old. That's the average. That means for every 20-year-old who owns the vape shop on the corner, there's an 85-year-old still running his family's Italian restaurant in order to get an average of 59 and a half. Well, that means there are 15,000 baby boomer entrepreneurs a day trying to get out of their business. And unlike previous generations where the next set of kids take it over, that's not happening. So the number one reason, age. Second most popular reason, health. Third reason, divorce. You know, when you own a house and you get divorced, what does the judge tell you to do? Sell it and split it.
Assets and split it.
Yep. We're not talking about a publicly traded Amazon. We're talking about Mary's Muffins and Bakery. And it's the same sort of thing. You get divorced, sell it, split it. So the top 4 reasons for why people are selling the business make total sense. We're just not taught to go buy businesses. It makes way more sense to buy a business than it does a house. It's more affordable. The revenue is better. Your ability to grow that asset is better. But how many kids were taught in high school, okay, when you leave, go buy a business? None.
Well, and they don't teach this mindset and philosophy in business school either, or in MBA programs. And so this was all brand new to me when I first heard your programs, and it's logical. It makes perfect sense, but people don't know about it. They don't think about it. A lot of times business owners, even entrepreneurs, are so involved in running that business, or actually having that business run them.
Yes.
That all they're trying to do is keep their head above water and not spend every waking hour working. And so they don't think about, how do I grow through non-traditional means? And so you've got some really great ways that you coach the business owners you work with on how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we try to do it in a way that doesn't require where everybody else is, right? Like, how many people to this day think there's such a thing as online or digital marketing? That doesn't exist. That's not a thing. And the platforms know it too. That's why they sell you ad credits, not marketing credits. There's a huge difference between advertising and marketing. And if you ask most businesses, what are you doing to market? They're going to tell you what they're doing to advertise. Not even realizing that they're two separate things, and not realizing that advertising is not what you count on to create revenue. Marketing is. So 9 out of 9 businesses that you go talk to in Houston have never marketed. They've only advertised, and then they wonder why they're failing so much.
Now you're preaching my language.
Good.
And this in your model of buying businesses isn't new. It's been done for decades and generations, right?
Thousands of years. 530 BC. I have a copy of a contract from 530 BC on how to broker the sale of an existing business. Real estate's only been around for about 500 years. Real estate's the new risky sort of thing on the block, because prior to 500 years ago, you either lived in a land where nobody owned the land because the earth was mom, or you were under a warlord or a king or something. Either way, normal people didn't own land. That didn't come along until about 500 years ago. But the idea of owning a business goes back to at least 530 BC that we have proof of.
Well, I remember reading The Richest Man Who Ever Lived by Stephen K. Scott.
Oh, sure.
And Solomon was considered the richest man who ever lived. He would be a trillionaire, multi-trillionaire today, but he owned thousands of businesses. So when I heard you say that you had owned dozens of businesses before, you own dozens now, you know, it's just like, how can you manage one business, you know, and manage more than one business? So there's ways to do it. I guess it's being done, but I guess you have the right people in place that run those businesses, and you just check on those people. Or how do you make sense of running, you know, several businesses, if you will?
Well, that's the difference between entrepreneur and a small business owner. A small business owner who, I don't know, is a plumber is going to focus on, how do I plumb? How do I get the piping? How do I get the job done? How do I manage the app to book my employees? And all that sort of plumbing related stuff. That'll slowly kill you and make you go bankrupt slowly over time, right? And the entrepreneur says, Okay, I know nothing about plumbing, so that's the perfect business for me to buy. I'm going to elevate one of the people who's currently there to manager, give them a $40,000 a year raise. Then I'm going to focus on all of the other things that the business owner normally doesn't: branding, marketing, advertising, sales, deal structures, acquisitions. And I'm going to focus on all of this stuff. And what you realize is, as an entrepreneur, business becomes your business, not plumbing. So I'm not making rum. I'm not making jewelry. I'm not driving a truck. I'm not running a store. Like, none of that it falls under what I do. My job as the entrepreneur is to create deals, to create marketing, to create, opportunities for those companies. That's my job. And when you realize what your job is, and it's not to do the work of the business, then all of a sudden your opportunities and your odds of success shoot through the ceiling.
It makes
So
perfect
would you say that
sense.
go ahead. Would you say that sales takes a big component of that as well? Because I heard a statistic recently that 80% of the billionaires were black belt salespeople and picking up the phone, making things happen, if you will.
I would say a little bit. I think that's wrong. I think that stat's wrong. I think people confuse sales with deals. Sales and deals are not the same thing. So for example, Jeff Bezos didn't get there because he was a black belt person. He was a black belt deal maker. And here's the difference. A sale is saying, okay, I make these awesome mugs with Josh Tolley's face on them, right? How do I sell these things? You're going to try to sell one to Kathy and one to Sharon and so on and so forth. And yay, there you go. Instead of saying, okay, well, how do I make a deal with Marriott hotels so that one deal sells 400,000 cups? And it's a completely different skill set, because when you're making deals, it's not about feel, felt, found and always be closing and SWOT assessments and needs assessments. That's just crap you should flush down the toilet, even for salespeople. Side note, no salesperson should ever be taught how to overcome an objection. You're actually setting yourself up to be poor. And I'll take it a step further. You're not doing your job if you're getting objections. That's why you had this old moniker of it takes 7 no's to get a yes and all that sort of crap, which was fine in the 80s when you could just talk somebody into something and they'll relent. But now if you create that sort of situation, they're going to go on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and they're going to destroy your company because you focused on how to overcome their objection. Anyway, back to the deal thing. What Jeff Bezos did was he didn't sell books. There were already a dozen websites selling books. He didn't invent that. What he did instead was he made deals with libraries to get their out-of-print books. So now his website was the only place that got the out-of-print books. Same thing with Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola made a deal with Chevron and said, hey, tell you what, we will supply every Chevron location with a free Coca-Cola cooler if you agree to sell Coca-Cola. Well, that became so iconic that if you look at a Norman Rockwell painting of a gas station, do you know what's in all of them? The Coca-Cola cooler. And there were hundreds of soda makers when Coca-Cola decided to do that, and they were all trying to sell and build their small businesses. And now you can't even name them.
Yeah, that's the deal making really is something that is just hugely important. And, as the CEO, the entrepreneur, you should be the visionary and figuring out, like you said in the beginning, where you want to go. And then having a team that once you set the vision and the path for that, that they just go and implement it. And Gino Wickman talks about that in Rocket Fuel, having essentially an integrator or COO or GM that is aligned with you as the CEO, that you're the visionary, you're creating new things for the business, also the rainmaker at times by doing the deals.
Yep.
But your COO or your GM is the one making things happen in the operations side of the business, so you don't have to deal with it. And a lot of business owners don't think in those terms as well. So let's talk about making deals and the kinds of deals that business owners can do to grow through acquisition. And some of, what you're famous for and what you talk about in your new book, Acquisitional Wealth, some of the things that business owners and entrepreneurs can do to grow and scale through acquisition.
Yeah. So I think it comes down to a couple things. One, asking yourself, if you're already in business, am I in the right business? I kind of pride myself on the fact that about a third of all people who come to one of our events thinking, hey, I came to grow my XYZ business, end up leaving their XYZ business by the end of the event. Because we don't try to say, oh, good you, and let's just make it work. No, if it's a stupid idea, it's a stupid idea. So first is ask yourself, is the business I'm in worth being in? If it is, then you have a couple different options. You can either roll up vertically or roll up horizontally. Horizontal roll-ups are going to be buying the people who do what you do. So let's say, for example, I have a pest control company. It's $10,000 a year for my license, $40,000 a year for my receptionist, 30 grand a year for my accountant, 15 grand a year for my lawyer. And then let's say Bob over on the other side of town has one too. Well, if I go buy Bob's, do I need to pay the receptionist, the new license, the accountant, and the attorney? No. So where do I get the money to buy Bob's? From Bob. Bob's literally going to pay me to buy him because I'm eliminating all those redundancies, right? Not only that, whatever profit Bob was making, I'm now making. So Bob paid for the acquisition and I get the profit. Option number two is to say, okay, well, using the pest control thing, if there's 10 pest control companies in town and they're all getting their chemicals from, or let's say 6 of them are getting their chemicals from Acme Chemical Company, well, then I'm going to go buy Acme Chemical Company. Because what that allows me to do is now, whether I get the carpenter end job or not, there's a 60% chance that I'm going to make money on it anyway. So those are the two sort of processes that you can use to kind of grow the current business you have. The other option is, once you have that working, start diversifying and buying businesses that have no relation to what you're doing. There's a reason why Shaq owns Five Guys and JCPenney's. They're not related. But it allows for that diversification model to say, okay, now that I'm stable in one, let me get out. But that kind of leads to another point. When you're looking at buying your first business, the process can take time, and that's okay, because you want to buy the right sort of business. And you want to buy a business that is recession resistant. Nothing's guaranteed, so resistant, right? You want to avoid things that have a cash register if possible. And you certainly want to avoid restaurants and what's called income producing real estate, car washes, laundromats, stuff like that. So you want to avoid those sort of things because your odds of success then are astronomically higher.
Now, Josh, before we take questions, you also invented flipping. Can you talk a little bit about that? I've heard that in the real estate world, but never really heard it like what you talked about in the business acquisition world.
Yeah. So as far as I know, I'm the first person, and I could be wrong, but I'm the first person who has ever taught the concept of flipping businesses. And for me, it goes back a long, long time. So let's say you own a bakery, and the bakery does $1 million a year. You're making 30% margin. Like, this is just a sweet thing, right? You're making 300 grand a year take home. And I ask you, why do you still own it? Well, because I'm trying to grow 20% next year. Okay, one, that'd be astronomical. Good for you. But even if you did, that means you went from 300 grand to 360 grand. So what? If your business is worth $1 million, you could sell that for $1 million, use that as a 10% down payment on a $10 million business, and let's just use the same rate of return, and now you're making $3 million a year. So if $3 million a year is bigger than $360,000 a year, why are you trying to grow your existing business? You should never really own a business longer than 4 to 5 years. After 4 to 5 years, unless there's some sort of legacy play, like your great grandfather owned it or something, but unless there's some sort of legacy play, flip that puppy. Flip that puppy. Because people are going to say, well, Josh, I mean, if I sell my business for $1 million, I have to pay tax on that, right? Well, that's asked by people who don't understand taxes or business. Because if I sell it for $1 million and I buy a $10 million business, who do you think is going to pay the $250,000 in tax that I owe on the million? The new business, because it's making a few million a month. So that business is going to pay my tax. So I can use that whole amount to go gobble up more money, and you can literally buy whatever income you want up to a certain point. And once you get above 100, 200 million, it gets a little bit harder. But up until that point, you can kind of buy whatever income it is you're after.
Well, I love what you call what you do is the most powerful, fastest, strongest wealth creating and life-changing wealth of our history.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Close enough. Matter of fact, I like yours better. You threw
It's
in
a tongue
wealth
twister.
twice.
But that's why I was so excited to hear about this, because I have seen others that talked a little bit about it, but never in the amount of detail that you have today. And we do want to open up the platform for questions. So any of our attendees today, if you have a question for Josh, please unmute yourself and ask away. So Kathy, you want to go ahead and keep us going?
Before we do open up to questions, I have one more thing that I want to ask Josh about. So say I'm an employee and I've never owned a business. What are the ways that I could possibly go about purchasing a business? I know you mentioned your 401k. Are there other ways that somebody who wants to become an entrepreneur who is not already one can get the funding to purchase that business?
Yeah, you can do home equity lines of credits or HELOCs. You could do collateral assignments where you don't even have to do the HELOC. You could pool investors together, get some friends together and go in and buy it. You could do owner financing where the owner finances a huge portion of it, and that serves as the down payment for the SBA to underwrite the rest of it. Like I'll give you an example. We had a couple recently who put down, they bought a business that should make them about somewhere around 800, 900 grand this year. Take home. That's about a 900% increase from what they've ever made ever. And their down payment out of their pocket, I think, was less than 40 grand. So stuff like that is very common. I had a couple that went from 45 grand a year to $290,000 a year with a $70,000 down payment. Not only that, but at the closing, the bank kicked in $110,000 of working capital. So they handed a check to the bank. The bank handed a check back that was $30,000 more. So they actually made $30,000 the day they bought it. Lots and lots of examples like that. The most important part is get yourself a quality broker and start the process. Start the process.
Because
and then let the process take its time. Yeah.
You've got to spend the time and make sure that you're buying the right business for you that fits into your life and helps you achieve your life goals.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I think that with Shift Capital, you have other ways that you can help with that as well, right?
Yeah, Shift Capital focuses on how to use insurance as a way to protect your wealth for generations to come. A lot of people out there are thinking, I should get a UL or an IUL or a term life insurance policy or something crazy like that. When in reality, there's much more beneficial options that aren't advertised or sold through MLMs. So we kind of use that as a wealth protection tool, and then you can use that as a down payment too.
Yeah, that's very cool. I had not known about that until I attended your Business of Life event.
Oh, cool.
And so that was new learning for me, and something I'm actually looking into with Jeremiah. By
Yay!
So, is there anything else that you want to make sure that we cover today?
Yeah,
what
I
we
would
open up for
say,
questions.
yeah, I would say one of the most important things to talk about if you're going to go buy a business, be very careful of your attorney. Most attorneys, they're going to say that they're business attorneys, and they might be, but they're not transaction attorneys. Most attorneys that I've run into doing this for decades absolutely suck. Absolutely suck. So you're going to want to make sure your attorney really is a transaction attorney. Ask them how many of these they do every year, not their firm, them. Because unlike other sort of business things like employment contracts or lease agreements, this is very fluid. When you buy a business, everything is negotiable. Literally everything. It's not like buying a house where there's comps and then the appraisal comes in at X and this is what you have to buy it for. You can negotiate literally everything. I've negotiated season tickets to professional sports teams. I've negotiated 10 square feet of real estate in South America to put a remote controlled telescope. I've negotiated space to park an airplane. I've negotiated a statue in the lobby so they would know that grandpa started the business, like literally everything. And if you don't have an attorney who's used to working outside of the forms that are in the book, it can cost you a fortune.
Yeah, I can imagine so. So who has questions for Josh? And what
And
are
Andy, are you ready to buy a business?
Yes, sir. Let's talk about that. I was talking to Kathy. Kathy and I have some awesome conversations, but I said, well, really, I said that's where we need to go next. Once we get our own businesses up and running, or go and figure out how to sell a business or buy a business. And so now you've kind of, I think, helped us to leapfrog where our original thinking was. I think you help even our audience that's going to watch this to say, wow, we can skip so many steps and
So many steps.
get the right mentor, the right guide, that can take you there.
So many people, and this isn't a knock. It's literally, we're not taught. And like Kathy said, you're not even taught this in business school. But so many people think, okay, well, I'm going to get mine up and running first. And then when that gets to a certain level, then I'm going to grow and maybe I'll acquire. And you're looking at it backwards. Apple Computer released the Macintosh in 1984. By 1988, they've already purchased 17 businesses. To date, it's over 110. They didn't grow their way there. They bought their way there. Apple didn't invent Siri. They bought it. Apple didn't invent maps. They bought it. The same thing is true with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett didn't start Berkshire Hathaway. He bought it. It was a textile mill. I like literally everybody who watches this, if they're like, well, if this is so great, why isn't everybody doing it? Everybody is doing it. That's over $150 million and not telling you. Like, you cannot name one billionaire that's not doing this. You cannot name one big company that's not doing this. Right down the street is Exxon. They're doing it. Next to them is Shell. They're doing it. BP has an entire floor of people whose their entire job is to just go out and buy businesses for BP. So yeah, everybody's doing it. Why not just skip ahead and save yourself a few years and put $100,000 or more in your pocket by just saying, hey, let me just go buy that.
I loved one of the things that you talked about a little bit ago too, about buying businesses that are totally unrelated to what you're doing. Like, you bought the accounting firm. That's not what you do. Not
bookkeeping firm, but yeah,
what you do, right? But it's a service you're going to have to pay for, and lots of other business owners have to pay for. So there are a lot of business categories that would fall into that people wouldn't normally think of. Accounting services, legal services, marketing services, all different kinds of services that business owners need that you may be paying fees for. They're totally unrelated to the business that you do.
Yep.
It makes perfect sense at some point. Like you said, if you're spending more than $5,000 a month with them, it makes sense to purchase those businesses. And then you've got another profitable revenue stream.
And then that's the best part. You like, once you buy a business, let's say Andy owns a restaurant, right? And when you buy a business, you're buying the income Andy is already making. That's why this is such a secure way. Like, okay, nothing's guaranteed, asterisk, asterisk. But compared to everything else you can do, especially starting and growing a business, when you buy a company, you're not going off of a prospectus when you invest in something. You're not going after spot rate when you buy a metal. You're not going after an appraisal when you buy a house. When you buy a business, the owner, the owner's lawyer, the owner's accountant, the owner's broker, you, your broker, your accountant, your lawyer, the SBA, the IRS, and the issuing bank, 12 different professionals all looked at a business and said, Andy, if you buy this, this is what you get. Because you're looking at the actual bank account. You're looking at the actual tax return. You're looking at the actual income statement. So if there's a restaurant that made 200 grand profit last year, don't buy a restaurant, it's just an analogy. But if there's a restaurant that made 200 grand last year and you buy it for 3 times profit, that's 600 grand. You need to come up with a $60,000 down payment to make $200,000. I don't know if you've ever calculated an ROI, but come on. Not only that, when does it start? The day Andy signs that paper. If it's Monday at 11 o'clock and they sold a burger and Kathy owned it, Kathy makes money. But if they sign the paper at noon and at noon 30, Sharon buys a burger, Andy makes the money. There's no buildup and, oh, I hope someday we get there and, oh, if only. It is the closest thing to a time machine that has ever existed. You can go from where you are now to where you always felt you needed to be with one set of signatures.
This almost sounds biblical, that you will own homes and properties you didn't build, right? And that in the same.
Absolutely. Not only that, Proverbs 13:22, the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. How do you think that transfer is going to happen? It's not manna from heaven, otherwise the wicked wouldn't have it. And this is one of those scriptures that pastors don't get. The wicked have it. This isn't manna from heaven. So there has to be a transfer. How do you transfer? That's called an acquisition.
And I just learned this at the talent, the parable of the talents. 100-fold is more than 100%. It's 10,000%.
Yeah.
So part of the dream for this platform, that when I first started it, my why is to retire my lady one day. She's a CPA in the oil and gas business. I said, well, the only way I'm going to be able to do that is to make, some people around me very, very successful. And so this shortcut way, it's not really a shortcut. I mean, it's a tried and true and proven method.
Right.
But, I want to see some case studies out of this. That's one of the things that Kathy and I talked about. We're excited to see the chamber going and in the group that we're working with here. And of course, when you give a veteran a mission, an assignment, a step-by-step plan, they're so mission focused. They're like, they're not going to let go until they make it happen. When you go in the military, yep, they train you to be, if you're going to be a Marine or a Navy SEAL or Special Forces, by the time they mint you out, that's exactly what you are. But even as we're talking, they don't teach this stuff in school. Even if a non-veteran or whatnot, they don't teach us, like, you can dream, you can, you can know the why. And I think you did that in your video. You can know the what, but I think you also talked about the how, even before you got on this call. I was talking to Kathy, because we've been talking about, so we don't necessarily need to know the how, but we know that God's going to make the how. He's going to show us how. And it's people like you that have already figured all that out. You got your why, you got your what, now's the how. So thank you so much for sharing today, because I'm really excited. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, I don't think.
Well, let me add to that. So a few years ago, I interviewed Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann, who's a Special Forces guy. And he was talking about when they transition out, right? And I was talking about how, man, how do you go from like force recon to, sir, do you want fries with that, and not just lose your mind? Like, come on. So the idea that you need to be an entrepreneur is just there, because I could not live that life and then have a 20-something-year-old millennial boss telling me what to do with, whatever. But anyway, but I would take it even a step further. Part of the reason why veterans have a terrible time as entrepreneurs or wait, as small business owners, is because they don't have the plan. They don't have something to latch onto, right? Like even how to communicate via VHF is a 132-page book with the Coast Guard. It's crazy how much they already have lined out. Well, what happens is you have a veteran who says, well, I was a good mechanic in the Army. I'm going to go be a good mechanic over here. And they start a business. But when you start a business, there is no 137-page book. However, when you buy a business, there is. Because it's already been built. It's already been running. It might have been running for 20, 30, 40, 50, 10 years, whatever. So you're not trying to come up with, oh man, I'm now lost and have nothing to do. It fits right back into what you just said. Show me the target, show me the plan, show me the schematics. Let's go. There you go. Here it is.
Yeah, the operations manual's already built for you.
Literally.
Absolutely. Yeah. So does anybody have any questions for Josh?
I have a question.
Sure.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
You knew it was
Tell
going
us
to
who
come.
you are.
Well, so, we are, what is this? No, what month are we in? September.
Sure.
So we are almost 10 months in with you guys looking to buy a business. So we're under contract now with a auto mechanic place in Ohio. We're in Texas. And so, you're talking about, small business mindset versus entrepreneurial mindset. And we're like, okay, we don't know how to do this. And so we're really struggling, how are we going to fill those shoes? In Ohio from Texas, what can we do? I know, you talked about, promote somebody from within or whatever, but
Sure.
what else would you, recommend or suggest for us as far as being able to come into that position and I guess just do it?
Yeah. The biggest thing I could say is look for opportunities that the current owner is not taking advantage of. That is the biggest part. And let's kind of use that as an example because of timeline. We talked about this before. Take your time to buy the right business. The fastest we've done this is 11 days. The longest we've done it is 18 months. You want to make sure you find your right business. So don't feel bad if it's oh, it's been 10 months. Nope. You're not going to regret it once you buy it. But beyond that, what you want to take advantage of is what is the current owner not doing. So just for example, let's say they have no contracts with any school districts. Make a deal. Now that's a deal you would make, going back to making deals earlier, that let's say the East Side School District or whatever, you make a contract to service all of their vehicles. Well, now you just increase the business 15, 20%. Let's say they have no auxiliary sales, right? They're just fixing cars and wrenching. Well, you add in some wheels on consignment. So now you don't pay for them. They come from the manufacturer. They're on consignment. But when you sell them, now you get paid and then you pay the manufacturer. But it might be something that the current owner never even thought of, but now it can be an entirely separate revenue stream. The biggest thing is really saying, not that they had a bad business, but what opportunities didn't they go after?
That's a really,
and that's your job as the owner. Even if you buy the mechanic shop and you're like, man, I don't know how to wrench, and one guy just quit. Great. Then find another mechanic shop, make a deal with them that one of their guys works for you, because hey, that happens all the time. So that's filled. Your focus should really be, how do we advance the company as a company?
So I think our biggest concern at this point has been filling the shoes of the estimator, because the current owner has been doing the estimating. I'm sorry about the noisy baby. And
That's all right.
He did hire a replacement, but we're it's done, pretty much remotely as well. And we got, a list of, strengths and weaknesses of all of the employees, including the new hire estimator. And so we're well, we don't know how to estimate. So if something was to happen, what would we do? And so it's got us second guessing, even though this is the best opportunity that's been presented to us up to this point.
Sure. So I'll just finish that for you. So if that's the case, then there's some things you can do. You can contract with another garage. There are so many garages that it's a very fragmented industry. So there's even a garage here in Houston that has another garage do their estimates. Seriously, because the other garage is too booked to do it, but they'll pay them an estimate fee if they do the estimate, and then we'll go do the work. So there's always a solution. There's never not a solution that making a deal can't solve, including making a deal with somebody coming right out of tech school saying, hey, if you graduate and you come work for us and you stay with us for 4 years, we'll pay back your tuition for tech school. Now you have a committed estimator that isn't going anywhere for 4 years.
I'll give you another example too, is additional kinds of revenue streams that you may create. I happen to know of a plumbing company here in town that was not doing memberships with their clients, and they hired a new service manager who had come from someplace that was, and he said, why are we not doing this? And that does two things. One, there's a whole revenue stream on selling the memberships to every customer you go out to. And then two, that increases your sales because that customer is going to call you every single time they have a problem. They're not going to get bids or estimates from all the other companies. They're your customer for life as long as they're on that membership program. So if you can kind of think out of the box around some things like that, that maybe others in your industry are doing that you're not, or are not doing that you can be inventive about, that would be another way to help you be successful in your new business.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. We were talking with a mechanic shop up in Canada. And what we had them do, because they were kind of working their butt off, is they had women bring their cars in on Wednesday, Women Wednesday, and they would actually teach the women how to check their own oil, change their own tire, all that sort of stuff. Well, just like Home Depot has classes on how to tile, do you know what happens more often than not? You teach them how to do it, but they say, you know what? Can I just pay you for you to do it? Well, of course. But it still is this great funnel to say, hey, we care, all that sort of stuff.
And that's actually a really good point, because as a woman going into an automotive shop, I often feel like they're going, ooh, we got a woman coming in. Let's see what we can make of her, because she doesn't know anything. And so I have found some place here in Houston that I fully trust, because they've done some good things for me in the past and told me I did not need service on things that needed fixed in the next 6 months when I was leaving the state. And awesome. They weren't going to get the business. So, but if you can do something like that, that makes a population of your clients feel good and trust you, not only are they going to continue to come to you, they're going to be raving fans, and they're going to refer everybody they know to you. And that's just another way to help ensure your income with that business and grow the business.
Good stuff, Kathy.
Thanks.
All right. So we have a couple of minutes to wrap here. Again, thank you, Josh, for being on this. This is going to be one of the episodes I'm going to watch over and over again, but I know you're here in Houston, so hopefully looking to meet you in person one day soon. And Kathy, I thank you so much for all the business owners you've advised and counseled and coached over the years. And it's been fun to work with you in this sector last couple of years. And I'm looking forward to the results of this activity, just these conversations we're having and bringing the bright minds together. We've been so fortunate to have some leaders that lent their voice to this platform, from Machine Gun Preacher to Frank McKinney. These are all successful business owners, not necessarily veterans. I think Frank's dad was in the Army, and Machine Gun Preacher's dad was a Marine. But we have had Akshay Nanavati. He's a Marine vet, and one of his missions is to traverse the Antarctica, which has never been done before. He's got an incredible team preparing him to go across Antarctica. A serial entrepreneur. We've had Ruben Gonzalez, a 5-time or 4-time Olympian. I think he's going to go for the Olympics the 5th time at 60 on the luge, which is a dangerous sport, but he's committed to doing it. He's an author, speaker as well. I'm trying to think who else we had. We had Oz Geist. He was the hero at 13 Hours. A movie was made about the heroism of protecting Benghazi. And he's also a veteran business owner. And so, Josh, the chairman, Tolley, thank you for being on this call. And what website should people know about? I know you've got the Logic Show on YouTube. You've got your podcast, Acquisitional Wealth, and of course your website's a Kingsbridge company. And so, where would you like to direct the folks to learn more about you?
Yeah, they can find out more about me at joshtolley.com, JOSHTOLLEY.com. Kingsbridge, which is the brokerage, is kingsbridgebrokers.com. And then the show, The Logical Place and Acquisitional Wealth, they can both find at my personal website, the Josh Tolley website, and they can pre-order Acquisitional Wealth wherever books are sold. So make sure you do that. The book comes out in April of next year, but it's finished already. It's just these publishing companies and their marketing schedules. It's just sitting there, and I'm like, come on, man, get the book out there. Let's sell this thing.
Yeah, I saw your post the other day where you finally finished the final edit. That has to be such a good feeling.
Oh, and this is why I never read my book. So what happens is they accept it, right? So in traditional publishing, once they accept it, it's no longer mine. They own it. Well, from that point forward, I've never read my own book again. Because if I ever find anything wrong or I would change this, or I can't. So now I'm forever done reading that book. I hope you like it.
Well, I am definitely pre-ordering it. I definitely want to, read through it. And he's also written Evangelpreneur, which is another good book. So if you're interested in that, you can get that. And you also have a boot camp coming up. Quit Your Job or Die. Yeah. So tell us about the boot camp.
So we have a buyer's boot camp coming up. I think it's October 16th and 17th or 15th and 16th. Something like that. If they go to the websites, they can find it. But what we really like to do is we like to prepare people for being business buyers. It's not just hey, go buy a business. Good luck, Chuck. It's let's hear from an attorney. Let's hear from an accountant. Let's go over a profit and loss sheet. Let's teach you how to read balance sheets. Let's talk about your first 4 months of ownership, your next 6 months of ownership, because what you do in those two periods is so important. So it's a lot of, let's get you ready to actually go do this. A little buyer boot camp.
That sounds fantastic. And they can find that at your websites, and it's posted on Eventbrite. It's October 15th. First time buyers boot camp. And if you're looking for who's hosting it, because there's probably other business buyers boot camps out there, look for events by Shift Capital, SHYFT Capital. And
thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're looking to buy a business or looking to grow yours through acquisition, I highly recommend that you have a conversation with Josh and learn how he and his team can help you be successful in growing your business that way. So, Josh, I want to thank you very much for joining us today and sharing with our audience some things that can be really, really helpful to them in being successful as entrepreneurs.
Well, it was my pleasure. I'm glad that this topic is being talked about, and I'm glad that you guys are doing what you need to do to get this information in the hands of the veterans.
Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again soon one of these days.
Absolutely. Bye-bye, guys.
And thank you, everybody,
right, so
for joining us.
You've been watching A Million Veteran Millionaires. Change your mindset, change your future. What would happen if you started or took your business to $1 million, $2 million, or $5 million in annual revenue? What would that mean to you personally, your family, community, and your network? It can happen. A Million Veteran Millionaires is a mindset engineering Zoom call platform created to rally and gather veteran startups or veteran-owned businesses who want to work together to help each other succeed. We will first focus on changing mindsets that keep you back and go through a process called mindset engineering to take steps to achieving success. We will feature other successful business owners who are leading the way, who are supporting this mission. We are limited to 100 attendees initially. The cost is free to attend. If you would like to know more, please visit millionaires.com. You deserve to have a successful business, and we want to help you. Change your mindset, change your future. My name is Andy Valdez, founder of Marketing Dynamics. The late Peter Drucker, the father of management theory, believed marketing was critical to your business. He said the purpose of a business is to create a customer through marketing and innovation. Strategic marketing equals immediate success. We offer you speed to market without the speeding tickets. Work smarter, harder, faster. Marketing Dynamics, because the market never stays the same. Please visit teammarketingdynamics.com. America needs veterans more than ever. As a veteran business owner, you are equipped with a focus, professionalism, and dedication that is rare in the marketplace. We are looking for former military, make it happen business leaders like you to join forces with a marketplace mission called Veterans Business Force National, a division of Network in Action Business Force based in Houston, Texas. We are rallying patriots to work together to grow opportunities for yourself, each other, and our community around the country. We meet once a month via Zoom to share our vision and align with fellow warriors. Together, we are stronger. Google Veterans Business Force National to find us before we find you. Apply to join our mission at networkinaction.com. We are Veterans Business Force National, on mission and locking arms.